hope I make us okay. I'm sorry for the past week not being able to hold our English classes. Okay, so tonight we'll be discussing the theory of consumer behavior. Slide there, just like introduction to utility. So, but I would love to introduce us to the yes, we need to and watch about to dive into before we just jump to the essence you get. Okay, so now we're talking about consumer behavior. We're talking about the study of how consumer make decision about which and services to buy. We're talking about how much of which they buy and when to buy them. You get. We're talking about consumer behavior. Okay. Okay, so now let's dive into our slide. Okay, yeah, we have introduction to utility, and it says utility is a measure of action or pleasure that the consumer derives from consuming goods and services. Yes, we use the word utility in economics. We are talking about the total satisfaction. We're talking about the maximum satisfaction that is being derived from the consumption of goods of a good or from the consumption of an item. Yes, I hope we are together. So the satisfaction, like satisfaction people actually derive, actually really get. Elephant, of course. Okay. So now from there, I hope you understand what. Sorry. Oh, you understand by utility. It is the satisfaction or pleasure that you get from consuming different services. And I think that means when you hear the word utility, talk about satisfaction. You're talking about the maximum satisfaction that is being enjoyed from the consumption of a good or product. Here we have utility, we have total utility, we have marginal utility. Right. So when you're talking about total utility, you're talking about total satisfaction or pleasure that is derived from consuming a good. That is derived from consuming a given quantity of goods and services. When you're talking about total utility, you're talking about all of the satisfaction, all of the pleasure that you get from consuming a particular good. Hope we are together. Like the satisfaction that is very so you need the commodity like consume at a particular time. You use different goods. It's not like um it's just one thing. Or maybe for a day. The only thing you do or the only thing you get, the only item you get just it's just book, it's just food. You know, as per we as human as consumers, we get different stuff, we get different goods. We get involved different things, different items we purchase. So the satisfaction that we get from the consumption of but and earlier we bought one and two we bought through the old satisfaction is derived from the consumption is what called super utility. I hope we're good. Actually, it's supposed to be okay, so now we move to marginal utility. And I guess if you can remember in our previous classes, one of our previous classes, I mentioned let's break down the word marginal. I said yeah, come across the word marginal. Anytime you make the use of the term marginal, just know that it is an addition, like an extra like if you're talking about better get to cost, you just like okay, you're not talking about marginal cost, you're talking about extra cost. You're talking about talking about the additional stuff of that thing. So I'm talking about my utility, we're talking about extra satisfaction that is derived from a good consume. So yeah, you know, it says the additional satisfaction or pleasure derived from consuming one more than the good or service. Yes, that's what we call marginal satisfaction. Okay, together. Okay. So total utility and marginal utility. Okay, total utility satisfaction right for each unit of consumption. That's summation of when you want to list your total utility. So you sign. I guess in one of our previous slides when I actually explained that I told you that that was elasticity. I like we could not get a visual explanation of. I just tried to create a picture in our head about all this time. And there was times in the class, I was okay, when you get here, watch mission. I said the sign looks like an E. Okay, so this one, this sign, I'm in formula for you now. This sign that we see here for the Greek alphabet, I've forgotten. I don't want to pronounce something. Yeah, I'll put it in my name. This is something. This this letter looks like a letter E. It needs solution. E. So to get your total utility, you have all your marginal utility for each unit consumed. And they gave example. But if you are dealing with more complex items or figure, for you to divide utility, all that together, like average cost. You know that at that point you're going to multiply average, yeah, the average cost, average utility by the fund consumed. I hope we let's answer that. I hope we understand what average utility is. So yes, then. Okay, so let's talk about total utility. We are giving an example here. It says if a consumer consumes 1, 2, 3, and 4 units of a good, marginal utility of each unit is 10, 8, 6, and 4 respectively. Then the total utility 10 plus 8 plus 6 plus 4 equals 8. So extend this formula here. We got that. Okay. And marginal utility. And I also heard when I was explaining the term marginal in our definition. I also okay, that was when I was talking about change. I was like, okay, see a sign in terms that looks like triangle. You know that the formula of price elasticity, percentage change in price. You get, and I was trying to do that. I was like, okay, you get to see. I don't know if you come across it. I don't want to assume that everyone is familiar with it, and if familiar with this, I hope you get it now. Get to maybe go through your past questions or and you get to see a sign that looks like triangle, basically talking about changes. You get okay, so you take the formula for marginal utility. The formula is change in utility when this is consumed, you get like change your total utility, the total satisfaction divided by change in that. So when you get to come across something like change in CU over change in Q, whenever you come across that triangle in any text, in any book, just that okay, when you come across this triangle, you are basically talking about change, and they are dealing with marginal utility. Yeah, so in our slide, they get to tell us the relationship between total utility and utility. So I want to do that, and I hope we are still together. Okay. Okay, so when I talk about the relationship between total utility and marginal utility, um, you can say, okay, marginal utility, that's additional satisfaction. I hope we grab that when I said it. So your marginal utility was like it begins was after the first unit of consumption has been consumed, and it begins to diminish to zero. Like, and it begins to fall down to zero. I hope together. After the first consumption, yeah, a basic example we do use and use while renters. Okay, when you go out and you're thirsty and you get to take, first water, there's a satisfaction. Then when you get more, you get. Then the utility, the satisfaction you derive from that will begin to fall. Okay, so and another thing, yes, I've come across this in past videos. It'll be like, oh, at the point of marginal utility, which is zero, and the oh, what is your total utility, or what is total utility? When your marginal utility, when it reaches zero, sorry, when it reaches zero, then your utility is maximized. Let me say that that um, marginal utility is additional utility. It's all about additional satisfaction. By the time satisfaction you are deriving from consumption, from a good, it gets to zero. When once you get to that point that when you take more, like it makes no difference. That means you have reached the highest point of your satisfaction, and the total utility is maximized. The next that can happen is it begins to when you get to eat, and then we eat tumble. Okay, yeah, okay. Mommy, I want more. You get little more. That when you start eating more, you become bloated. Like you comfortable. At that point, your total utility has reduced, and the total utility is now zero because the extra consumption you are taking as like you're not getting any satisfaction from it again. It's not adding to value. I hope we got that. And again, okay, when marginal utility becomes negative, when your marginal utility becomes minus 2, then your total utility too begins to fall. Okay, so now this explanation now leads us to law of diminishing marginal law of diminishing marginal utility. At some point we should have actually come across that, but if not, let's see. Okay, so that's not here. We have the law of diminishing marginal utility system. As more units of goods or services are consumed, the marginal utility of each additional unit decreases. As more, as more units of a as sorry, not marginal says that as more units of a good or services are consumed, the marginal utility of additional units decreases. Just like the same example that I gave. About time, which I did to use water as a very good example. I guess I remember when my thought was like, when you're thirsty, you're from a long distance and you've been stressed and drained. Honest of us, the cold water, a very cheap, like, a, I don't really like cold water. Let's choose okay. Water that is just cold. Let's very cold water. Just offered one water that is just chill, like if there's the way the water will be cold. It's not very cold. It's cool. And you finish the first one. By the time it's 3 and 4, yeah, your satisfaction, the third actually decreases. Like it's as easy as using the water and it gets the point. I hope I'm making sense, and I hope it's related for that person. Okay, actually, marginal utility decline quantity increases. You yeah means marginal utility and the Q means quantity. Okay, so we have an example here. It says if the first unit of food gives 20 utils, the second unit gives 15 utils, and the third gives 10 utils, we see diminished marginal utility. Like this example see explains what we were trying to say. The satisfaction is derived from the first bowl of rice that you consume when you get back from class to your hostel. After you are come back from a class, you are very, very hungry. You decide to take Gary. The first one that you take, eh, you derive more satisfaction than you consuming more, more. By the time you take more, the satisfaction you derive from it begins to drop. That's just that's just the basic thing. Marginal law of diminishing marginal utility is saying. Excuse me. I hope that okay. So now on our ferry, we are on equimarginal processes. And most time when I actually want to get to talk about any subtopic or when I get to any topic, I love to break it down. And when you get the word equi, like when you get to see it's like you get to it's about it. And we've defined okay, I've explained when you get to, no word marginal. We're talking about additional, you're talking about extra. You get okay. So if imaginary principle states that consumer allocate their income, consumer allocate their income across different goods and services in such a way that the marginal utility per dollar, marginal utility per naira spent is the same for all goods. Like the additional utility you derive complex and golden or you pick cowbell and that cheap that drink, each other stuff. You pick Pepsi as your item. For the heavy additional unit, For every additional unit, the unit per penny, the unit per naira dollar was whatever currency was it the same for the group. So mathematically, if you want to represent that, you see marginal utility of X divided by price of X and marginal utility of Y divided by price of Y. Then look at marginal utility. Okay, where okay, where help you X? You know, I did was MUX. I guess I said earlier in one on one of the slides when I saw Hemu, I explained that Hemu means marginal utility. CP, basically, we're talking about price. But because we are making use of, we are making an example of our goods as X and Y. So when where MUX and XY are marginal utility of both X and Y, and PX and CY have their prices. I hope we are together. I hope I'm not fast. I hope I'm not rushing. It's thinking. I hope we can all relate to it. Okay. So, example, consumer has $10 to sell two with X and Y. If MUX over PX is equal to 20 and MUY over PY is equal to 10, the consumer spend more on until your X is same as Y. I hope it makes sense. But until the answer, until your result, when you divide, okay, my additional satisfaction when I consumed bread, I mean my additional satisfaction when I consume coke divided by the price that I bought it is equal to my additional satisfaction when I buy maybe rice or maybe beef and you divide it by the price. You make sure that they are the same. Okay. I hope we are together. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now our next slide. Move to budget line. So yeah, budget line represents all combinations of two goods that a consumer can purchase with a given income at given price. You know, like we broke the equity marginal this one, like we broke down equity marginal principle before we actually if I were about budget. Like, okay, I'm sure as Nigerian citizens, as a Nigerian, I'm sure at some point in our life we must have across the word budget. We must have been familiar with the term budget. You know, when we talk about budget, like that's your proposed or your planned, like the amount or the proposed or the planned income, like that you want to use for these expenses. And then Nigeria budget, you are talking about okay, the proposed expenses, how government is going to spend their expenses over expenses. And talking about budget plan, depending on how those are just budget line, this is consumers. And typically this budget line is mainly about food. So it tells us how okay a consumer we spend the proposed amount, the amount that he has or she has on goods. If I'm having 500 naira, if I'm going to buy, okay, rice 100 naira, beans 400, or I'm going to buy rice 400, beans 100 naira, or I'm going to buy 200, 300. That's what this budget plan 2020. That's what I think together. So again, budget line represents all combination of two goods that consumer can purchase with a given income at the given price. There's a formula for the budget plan. It says PX multiplied by X plus PY multiplied by Y. That is equals PX multiplied by Y. I equals PX multiplied by X plus PY multiplied by Y. Yeah, is your income or your budget. And your PS is the price of food. PY, your PX is the price of good X. Your PY is the price of good Y. Your X and Y are the quantities of good X and Y respectively. They are together. Okay, so now this one is for you. It says if the consumer, like if a consumer has $100 and the price of X is $20, I don't know why they are using dollar here. But if you want to use dollar, use dollar. If you want to use net, use dollar. If you want to use euro, you can. Just make sure um whatever symbol, whatever value you're using, just make it constant. It's not like if it is having $100 and the price of good is 20 naira, you get, just make sure everything tallies. How we put it together. Okay, so now the example we have here says if the consumer has $100 and the price of X is $20 and Y is 10 naira, the budget line will be above. What am I saying? If the consumer, sorry, is not visible, but I'll read out. I'm going to be before. If the consumer has $100 and the price of good X is $20 and Y is $30, the budget line will show all combinations. Yes. I hope to get it now. I don't know if someone is writing now. Let me say again. It says consumer has $100 and the price of good X is $20 and good Y is $10. The budget line will show all possible combinations. Okay, so if you solve this, just break it down. One of the things that you can just do to help yourself when you solve a question is break it down. You don't have to just jump to question. You understand it, then you get to break it down. So now, before you solve this, you can write. So we have our formula already. So you can write your consumer income or your consumer budget be $100, and you can write the price of good X I've been given here, $20, and our price of good Y as I've been given here is $10. I hope we are together. Okay, in our formula, it says PX, and this is the introduction here, the price of good X. And the price of good X is what again? price of goods is $20. And the formula says, oh, let's start from the beginning. Formula says I. And what's the I in this question? Let's identify everything. Don't yet start solving. Let's identify everything. Following the formula. The formula says I, and our high is the sum of our high is the budget. So our high here is $100. I hope we agree with that. Because if the consumer has $100, your budget, like they want to spend, is $100. And the price of X, so your PX is equal to $20. And good Y is $10. Your PY is equal to $10. So the budget will show the budget now will show all possible combinations. Now let's insert all this into the formula. Our high is $100 is equal to PX. Our PX is 20 multiplied by X. That's the formula schedule. Plus our PY here is 10 multiplied by Y. What would be our solution? We say 100 is equal to 20X plus 10Y. If you say 20 multiplied by X, we get 20X. When you say 10 multiplied by Y, we get 10Y. I hope that's together on this. Okay, so now, let's say the budget line will show all possible combinations. If you are to look for all possible combinations here, we just substitute the value of X and Y. We were not given more than this information. So you can just substitute the value of X and Y with any figure or with any number that to satisfy the equation. Yes. For example, now, if say if is equal to 0, I hope we are just if x is equal to 0 and I want 10, when we input where we have sorry, excuse me. That is when I say x is equal to 0, that means wherever you see x, you put 0. And you know our equation now that is derived from this question is 20x plus 10y equals 0 and equals 100. And I hope you remember how we got there. So now if my x is equal to 0, 600 equals to 20 open bracket 0 plus 10. And our y is what? And our y is 10. So now if you have to solve this, 20 multiplied by 0, we have 0. I hope you're familiar with that. Any number multiplied by 0, whether in millions, whether in whatever, yeah. Multiplied by 0, answer will be 0. We got that. So 10 multiplied by 10. 10 multiplied by 10 is 100. Therefore, our income or our budget is equal to 100. That means our budget and the combination we had for this good is equal. And that means, okay, what we take from this answer, from this substitute we did, is that consumers spend the entire income on goodwill. I hope we are together. And if we try to substitute to be 5 and our y is 0, that's what we're going to get will be that okay, our y, our x will be equal to 100. So you can say, the consumer spend all of the income, all of his budget on product X or commodity X. Well, okay, we're not saying, okay, let's stop. Okay, let's make that, okay, If X X is, and our Y is 6. When you say 20 multiplied by 2, our answer will be 40. Say 10 multiplied by 6, our answer will be 60. And 40 plus 60 give us 100. I hope we're together. So at this point, you say, oh, the consumer spent $40 on good X and $60 on good Y. And vice versa. If you are going to substitute 6 to X and to Y, you still say, oh, the consumer spent more on good Y than X. I mean, we are going to X to be 3. 6 times 3 is going to give us 60. And 10 multiplied by 4 is 40. Therefore, we're going to say, oh, this consumer consumes more of Y, and more of X to Y. I hope we're together. So now the budget slightly make consumer visualize their it makes them nice yes the fashion, and again it makes them get make informed decision. You get this the solution really nice. Oh, that's actually tough. From the solution with it tonight, you can actually tell that okay, ha, consumer spends more or good or bad. This consumer spends more. Maybe it's milk and milk or golden milk coffees. Oh, this person spends more on golden milk. This person spends more on conflicts. This person doesn't even like conflicts at all. It's just golden milk. This person doesn't like golden milk, just conflicts. Oh, this person gets all this. He gets. Okay, oh, I hope we are to get that shot. Okay, so now let's move to the next slide. We have income and substitution effect. Income and substitution effect. So here it is income effect, change in quantity demanded of a good due to a change in consumers' income, like the purchasing power, your money. And you talk about income effect, and then you say the reason why there's a change in this consumption is because there is a change in the income. If the income of a consumer increases, more of goods to be consumed. I say more of normal goods to be consumed. I hope you remember when I define normal goods. Yes, I'm talking about normal goods here. I'm talking about goods that actually pays that follows the law and that okay. But when the price of goods is low, more of it is consumed. And when the price of goods is high, less of it is consumed. You get. So those types of goods we call normal goods. I hope we're together. So when we talk about income effect, like I said, like I was saying, when there's an increase in consumers' income, the consumer tends to buy more of the goods, and consumer will get less of inferior goods. I don't remember when we discussed inferior goods too. When I said, okay, when you talk about inferior goods, talk about goods. When income increases, your demand decreases. So make mention of fast food. When I talked about small mama food like that, I was like, if you get to have more money, of course this will change. Your taste will change. You no longer want to go to more time shop to go and buy, all this bread and things. or you want give me, or you want aboki meshai. You get your of course your demand for something to be reduced. It will fall. I hope you are together. It will fall. It takes to change. You will upgrade. You no longer want to demand for roasted food. You no longer want to demand it for what's this food that Koyemi was taking me to? Akara. Yeah, he needs akara, roasted akara. No, your taste will change. You'll be entering into it. You'll be going like the demand for surgery will reduce. Now you'll be getting to buy more of akara that attains Harvard. I hope I'm able enough and we get to understand this. Okay. So back to what we were discussing. We talk about income effects, and I said just like the literal, I mean, like the literal thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word income effect. It's not about income, it's about your head. So the effects of your earnings are behind. I hope I've explained that enough. And when your income increases, now I talked about income increases. This one increase, your income decreases. You will buy less so of the normal goods. It's less that your mama put. When you salary jobs, or when you just start a new life, and now you just got your and everything. You're trying to furnish, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, getting your shoes, getting what, getting everything. Everything is draining your income. Of course, you will consider that if I decide to go and cook in this second hand economy, so I'll buy palm oil and I will even buy fish. I will be able to get 1,000 naira fish. I will be able to get 500 naira fish that I want to cook by myself. I go to Mama Put. I have this that I want to sell naira meat. I can get it. If you go to market, nobody will sell 200 naira meat for you. You get it. So you just like instead of me to go and embarrass myself in the market and be telling them seller, I mean sellers are trying to be nice. They just insult you. Want to buy 200 naira meat as far you get. So your consumption period goes at that stage. If your income decreases, it definitely increases. While your consumption goes actually reduce. I hope I've been able to explain this way. Income effect. Okay, so substitution effect, such the word substitution substitute can use in place of the other. Yes, the change in quantity of a good due to a change in its price, making the good more or less attractive relative to other goods. Yes, yes. I hope that's okay. So, like I was saying, substitution effect. Another substitution effect is cover substitute. Change the quantity manner of a good due to a change in price, making the good more or less attractive relative to other goods, and compared to other goods. You get like when there's change in consumption of commodities as a result of change in its price compared to other goods. For example, now if the price of cowbell decrease and you have to buy more of Danone, you get that substitution effect. Okay, we have an example here. If the price X decreases, consumer may substitute X for without using cowbell I'll be start using down instead of cow. I will start when the price of when the price of cowbell decrease, when the price decrease, of course get more of it than Dano. So now you're not using more of cowbell to Dano. It's from effect. I hope I've done justice to this. Hope no one is confused. Okay, so let's move to the next slide.